here at home. Joining us is Senator David Perdue, member of a number of key committees, including Budget, Foreign Relations, and Judiciary. Senator, great to have you with us. Let's begin with first the president's trip. He has been met with enthusiastic, warm ceremonies and demonstrations and leaders, all seemingly rushing to be at his side. How does this compare to your expectations?
Well, isn't it a contrast to the first trip that President Obama took some 8 years ago, where he visited 7 Muslim countries and forgot to visit Israel? But this President Trump seems to be getting better press internationally than he is here at home. I mean, this is a man that's re-engaging with the world, and what we see this week is the world responding to that, Lou. You know, on foreign relations, I traveled a lot over the last 2 years talking to these heads of state, and the number one request they had was America needs to step up and lead again. That doesn't mean 100,000 troops on the surface of Syria, but what it does mean is that we need to re-engage and coalesce to defend against terrorism and to really get our economies going again.
It's interesting to hear the president as he talks about NATO, whether it is creating an Arab NATO in the Middle East. He is talking about partnerships and relationships with these countries. He is not talking about dominating them or sitting aside and sort of with a sense of superiority, commenting on what they're doing correctly or incorrectly. This is a president who is setting an entirely different tone for American leadership, certainly than his predecessor.
Well, that's absolutely correct. We saw in the campaign, though, we had a different kind of candidate. We predicted it that we'd have a different kind of president. He's not an ideologue. He's a pragmatist. He just wants to get results. And you mentioned in your lead-in, and you've talked a lot about this, Lou, is that Europe needs to step up and help fund their own defense. Right. In the Middle East, this is not a U.S. solution to ISIS or even Syria. This is a local solution where we need all of the partners engaged to do that, but they need leadership from America to do that.
Absolutely. Turning to matters here at home, Mitch McConnell saying that he doesn't know how he'll get 50 votes right now for the health care legislation. What are we running into here? When the leaders of our two houses, Mitch McConnell and Speaker Ryan, don't seem as though they're exactly lined up shoulder to shoulder with the President of the United States and the leader of their party.
Well, you see the same thing in tax. You see it in health care. I think this is one where results will win the day. I'm hopeful we'll get to a result on health care, but right now the best we can hope for, I think, is 50 votes, and that's a very dangerous place to be. Look, we should have been working on this all this year. As a matter of fact, over the last 6 years. This solution is complicated, but it's not impossible. And what we've got to do is get behind the president right now and follow his leadership to get this done. You know, Lou, this is a crisis. Obamacare is collapsing under its own weight right now. There are some 1,100 counties across this country that are down to just one health care provider in the individual market. We've seen premiums rise 140% over the last 2 years alone. So what we've got to do is find the solution in here to deal with 4 things. One is access. We've got to make sure these people don't lose their insurance. 2 is we've got to make sure that the premiums start to come down, and we can do that with structural changes. The third thing is a Medicaid situation. We've really got to deal with that. And then lastly, we've got to make sure that pre-existing conditions are not ignored. This is an opportunity, though, to reach into the future and lessen the curve of mandatory liabilities that we've built up over the last 30 years.
Let me get to, and I think you're exactly right, but let me get to the issue of leadership here, and that is McConnell withholding his cooperation in support of the president and the party and this legislation. Speaker Ryan, for crying out loud, coming out today and just capriciously saying he doesn't think that former FBI Director James Comey is a nut job, while proposing a ridiculous border adjustment tax of 20% and fighting the president on it. What in the world does this president have to do? What does your conference have to do? What does the Republican Party have to do to get these so-called leaders straightened out?
Well, you know, Lou, I'm just a business guy. I'm not a psychologist. I can't tell you what's going through the brain of Paul Ryan or
I don't
Mitch
want to know,
McConnell.
believe me, Senator.
But here's the answer. In the business world, you either get results or you lose your position as a leader. And so right now, I think this 2-year period we have, and you've said this, in 17 and 18, Republicans have to learn how to govern again. And what we are seeing is this 2-year period is a probation period, not a mandate. And so the first thing is we had to get Gorsuch approved and confirmed, and we did that. Second is regulation. We passed 14 bills to move on regulation,
right,
and the president is acting on that. But now comes the heavy lifting. We've got to give our version of the future for health care in this country a solid vote in the Senate and get it passed. And then lastly, we have to pass this tax package the president's already outlined in his one-page proposal.
Senator David Perdue, great to see you. Appreciate you being with us.
Great to see you, Lou. Thank you.
Thank you.